Just not even. Oh, you get to just have a little like, thank you all for coming. So excited. I don't know. I just have to do anything too. Okay. Okay. Maybe just a little, just like a little something. Okay. We can get started whenever. Okay. Hello. We're going to get started here now. Appreciate all for joining us. Hopefully everyone is enjoying the breakfast. If you guys are hard, please grab some if you haven't already. I just want to welcome you all to our program we're going to have today. I'm Amani Esquire, the organizer for Advocacy events this week. I'm a lot of power for social work. Hopefully, some power students out in the audience today. Thank you all so much for being here. I really enjoyed the whole week of events that we have so far. I wanted to give you all a little overview of things that we're going to have today. But before we do that, we're going to have our leadership team who has worked alongside with me to put this event together so they can get their little introductions to you all as well. They're coming up right now. I am also a parent and I'm very excited to get to meet all of you all today and to go through the event today. Hello everyone, my name is Olivia Henry. I am a senior at Advocacy for Social Work. And I'm a current fellow. I'm excited for y'all to speak to representatives and engage in advocacy. Hi everyone, my name is Nemo Polanski. I'm at the University of Michigan School of Social Work in 2021. Supporting this conference for the past 2 years now. And one thing I missed before is to just debrief all of you here. The meetings you have with your elected officials. I think it's pretty cool.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Belinda Harris. I'm an advanced social student at Advocacy, and I'm also a Crystal. And I am most excited for you guys today to be on the Hill and actually getting the experience of going to different congressional offices.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephen Schumer. I am a Master of Social Work graduate from Howard University in Community Administration and Policy Practice. I'm also 2022-2023 University Fellow, and I now work as a social worker here in Washington, D.C. As a policy and advocacy manager. I look forward to you all experiencing a day of political social work. Thanks for being here.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine Cameron. I'm an advanced DNA Master of Social Work student at Advocacy currently on the Leadership Management and Entrepreneurship track. Really excited to be here with you today and do some training on how we can talk to our representatives. And with this year, 2023-2024 Chris Fellow, I'm a recipient of the 2024 Chris Outstanding Social Work Student Award, and I am a future congressman.
Thank you so much to the leadership team. We would not have been this without them. So thank you all so much for all of your work. You'll be seeing all of us throughout the day. So thank you so much. Also, we give a little shout out to Dr. Lewis, Director of Chris. We also have this week if you already see the event on Wednesday, Thursday, Dr. Lewis. Thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. So we have a great program for you all today. We're going to have an address from Dr. Stephanie Bonney. We're going to go into advocacy training with our leadership team member, Jasmine Dearman. It's going to get you all ready to speak with representatives and congressional offices. We're also going to have some words from Dr. Lewis. So I hope you all are very excited for what we have in store. The theme of the whole week this week is lifting every voice, our storytelling and social work, and that's why we're here today, is to tell our stories and make our voices heard on the hill. So we all are so excited. And again, thank you so much for being here. We're going to get into our first part of the program today, which is some words from Dr. Stephanie Bonney. Dr. Stephanie Bonney is an assistant professor of church and community ministries at Baylor University. Her research explores congregation-based social services and trans and faith-based initiatives, as well as social entrepreneurial approaches to address disparities in wealth, health, and food disparity. Dr. Bonney has so much experience, wonderful experience in the world of storytelling and advocacy, and I know she has some amazing things to share with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Dr. Stephanie Bonney to speak with you all.
Lift every voice and sing till the heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise. Love the listening skies, let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought. Facing the rising sun. One new day begun. Let's march on till victory. Let us march on till victory. as you've heard today, we are gathered here as social workers to remind ourselves of our place in policy, our place in social change, and our place in political social work. And it's so important to remember this work of storytelling. I started with a song because many songs are great stories. And this particular song was written by James Weldon Johnson in 1900. And his story is one to be known because he penned these words in 1900 as a part of a celebration of the birthday of Abraham Lincoln. But what's most important, he taught this particular song to children at a local segregated school in Jacksonville, Florida. And these children learned the song, 500 children learned the song, and they went on after he left and went to New York to continue singing the song. And this song was sung in the community, in churches. It eventually captured the attention of leaders who became endorsed as the Black national anthem. And this song also went on to be sung during the modern civil rights movement. The song became a rallying cry with so many other songs. We shall overcome during the movement. This song is so important because this song reminds us to lift every voice. As social workers, we are called to not only lift our voices for those that are marginalized, those that are on the sidelines, but to lift and to create spaces to help others to lift their voice. As Congressman John Lewis, one of the big leaders of the civil rights movement, reminds us, in his commitment for voting in the quest for equality, he said that the movement without storytelling is like a bird without wings. So as social workers, one of the things that we're given the privilege of doing is help people rise to their potential. And so storytelling is so important for this work. One of the stories that I want each of us to think about today as we participate in this event is think about your voter story. When did you first go into that poll to vote? What stories did you hear that inspired you to continue voting? In this election year, storytelling is so important. What are the choices that we have? What are the issues that we have before us? And remembering the stories of those that represent these issues, whether they might be issues that we care about, like school policy, food insecurity, poverty, human trafficking. The list can go on, but there are individuals that have their own stories that put a face to these issues. And so how do we help bring these issues to the fore by raising up other people's stories? Because so many stories have been silenced, and too many stories remain hidden. My storytelling work was actually birthed in 2012. I was actually working in Washington, D.C. at the Pew Research Center and I got an opportunity to do whatever work I wanted to do on Friday. It was an opportunity that my supervisor gave me. And so what I chose to do was to head to Philadelphia and meet with some colleagues, and I started revisiting the work of W.E.B. Du Bois. And many of us should know that W.E.B. Du Bois's work, a lot of his work was about storytelling. He was certainly very well known for his work of the Philadelphia Negro, the souls of Black folks, the gift of Black folks, and so many other works. But one of the things that drew me to his work was that in writing the Philadelphia Negro, he actually sat down at the kitchen, the parlor of thousands of Philadelphians to hear their stories. So in 2012, I began sitting with African American elders to hear their stories. And I later went on to Pittsburgh to hear the stories of other African Americans. And that's part of the work that you will hear today. Because I started using digital storytelling and started seeing how arts can inform our work in social work, as well as how we can join with our youth in using technology to tell these stories. So I began working with high school students, college students, to take them with me when I went to visit the African American elders, to learn about their experience of the Great Migration. And you might wonder, what does that have to do with policy? Well, hopefully today, as you hear some of the stories that these African Americans are telling, many of these stories relate to various policy issues. And these stories are important because stories shape our brains. As neuroscientists like Paul Zak reminds us that our brains can be even better by stories that we are told. Stories engage because stories actually engage more of our brains than facts or figures. So think about the last time you may have said a lecture and somebody shared a lot of facts and figures. How much did you really remember? But just one story carefully told will help you to remember that information in a way that not only sticks with you, but in a way much like these youth that had the opportunity to sing Lift Every Voice, that they went on to share those words with so many others, and it spread like wildfire. So stories are important because we can identify them. Stories also remind us of the stake that we have in a particular cause or issue. Stories can also move us. They can move us to tears, they can move us to anger, they can inspire us, they can transform us, they can empower us. As social workers, it's so important at this intersection to think about the way stories can change perspectives. And the way stories can open up new ways of thinking. Because so often, when we come to policy issues, we meet people that may have other ways of thinking about these issues. And it's in listening to their stories that we understand their perspective. We may not agree with their perspective, may not come to endorse their perspective, but at least we can understand these perspectives. And perhaps we can even find some common ground. As social workers, stories are so important to us because these are often the starting point, particularly with people that are clients. We want to understand how we can honor them, how we see their uniqueness, and how that shines through in their own story. So today, I'm going to share with you part of my collection of over 50 stories that I've been collecting over the past several years. And these stories have been brought together into a musical documentary called Unfinished Business from the Great Migration to Black Lives Matter. And many of these stories, these are elders as old as 103 and young as 55. And these elders are sharing stories, and many of them have implications for policy. Many of these stories, we hear the pain in their stories, but hopefully you will listen for also the triumph in their stories, because many of these African American elders went on to break ceilings in their particular areas. Many of them actually changed policy, maybe not because they came to the Hill, but because of some of the choices that they made, because of some of the careers and services that they engaged in, and also because they were all committed to voting. So, I think this is a good time to begin the film. Part of a larger body of work that I have, and usually when I share this work, I have drummers, there's more live singing, there's choir, because it's important not only to hear other people's stories, but also to look for the intersection of our stories. Because the stories that we hear from other people, in many ways, are part of our own American story. So how do we weave the stories back together so that we see that we do have these interconnections that are so important? So that when we are doing our policy work, we see that whatever that issue might be, we have a stake in that particular issue. Because these are our neighbors. These are people that we have some connection with. So, so I invite you to listen closely to hear the echo of freedom in each of these stories. These are Americans that push for freedom. They use their voice, they use their pen, they use their choices, their service, and their vote to tell their story. So you will hear several stories, and the first story that you will hear is by a woman named Mrs. Saunders. And I start with Mrs. Saunders' story because she is so excited that she had the opportunity to vote. This is a woman that, when we met her, she really didn't want to tell her story. We actually sat with her for about 15 or 20 minutes, and my colleague said, maybe we should leave because she really doesn't want to tell us her story. But when we asked her about voting, all of a sudden, a different person appeared before us. And you'll get to meet that person today in the film. But she was so excited that she had the opportunity to vote for the first Black president. And most of her excitement seemed to relate to the fact that she could remember her grandmother. a grandmother that did not have the opportunity to vote. So think about members in your family and the cost that perhaps they paid to vote, or the length that they have gone to vote. So one of the stories that has stuck with me about voting, and I really encourage you to go on the internet because you can find the whole short film on the internet. It's called Otis Dream. And in this particular short film, Otis Moss Jr. talks about his father's story of really wanting to vote and going to vote, leaving early one day, dressed in a suit, walking more than 5 miles, only to hear you're at the wrong place to vote. You don't vote here. He had a letter that told him that this was the place he should come, but apparently he didn't get the revised letter to tell him to go to the next place. So he walked another 5+ miles to the next place to be told something very similar. And then finally, he's told the place to go, and he gets there, and he's told 5 minutes. If you just had arrived 5 minutes earlier, we would have been able to vote, but we're closing. So imagine someone who's walked nearly 20 miles just to vote. So today we have an opportunity to vote, and many of us don't have to go through those types of things to vote. But we also need to be aware of what are the differences to vote. Okay, it looks like we won't be able to show the video. So I do want to Okay, so I do want to share at least one of the other stories that you would have heard from these speakers. So I did get a chance to interview 2 gentlemen that served in the military. One gentleman, when I went to his home, he was 101 years old. So Mr. Wiggins was still driving, still living alone, still going every morning to have breakfast at a well-known diner called Eaton Park in Pittsburgh and meeting his lady friend, he said. And so what was so great about meeting with Mr. Wiggins was he was a very optimistic person, and it was really interesting to hear his story because here is a person that has lived over 100 years and has so many stories, so which one do you tell? But he told us a story about serving in the military and how after his time in the military, he had hoped to benefit from the GI Bill and had hoped that he could, like so many people that came back from the war, get the education that he wanted. Unfortunately, he met a lot of roadblocks, but it was his determination that he continued to try to take courses and try to become a watchmaker. And so even though he had that opportunity, he was able to take these courses and get into this program, what's so important about his story relevant to policymaking is that his persistence opened the doors for other people because he was able to actually contact the federal government and let them know about the barriers that he was experiencing in Pittsburgh. And he actually had people to come from the federal government, he said, to ensure that he could take classes. So he was the first of many African Americans that were able to enroll in this class and become a watchmaker. Unfortunately, he still faced other barriers and he was never able to become a watchmaker in the way he wanted. But he worked for the Postal Service for many years and proudly had what young people might call a side hustle, where he made watches and fixed watches. So, since we won't be able to show the video today, okay. So what I would invite you to do is think about your own stories, the stories that you have intersect with policy issues. Think about the family members that you have and their stories. When I'm teaching social policy, it's a class that students are often very fearful of taking the course. And so one of the things that I do in my policy course is to make it largely about storytelling. I ask my students to go home and talk to their grandparents. Ask them about how they ever use a social service, what they think about social policy. And it's amazing the stories that they come back with. So I hope that you will continue telling your stories. You will continue asking other people to hear their stories. Because stories are so important. They help us to understand the many struggles that we have faced in our quest for freedom. And like the words of the song, Lift Every Voice and Sing, each person's story hopefully inspires us towards the hope. And in the face of the struggle for freedom and the divisions of this election season, let us face to the rising sun of a new day begun and march on till victory is won.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marty. That was such amazing words about how integral storytelling is to the field of social work. And that has been the plight in a lot of the life's work of our next speaker, Dr. Lewis. Dr. Lewis is director of CRIS, former deputy staff to Park Congressman Towns, and Dr. Lewis was integral in creating the social work caucus, which brings the stories of social workers to the Hill and gets social workers involved in policy work. So I can't think of a better person to give us some words about getting ready to talk to congressional offices and about how important it is for social workers to make their voices heard in policy. So I'll pass it over to you, Dr. Lewis.
So thanks so very much if you know what we're going to move on. That's what we do as social workers. So this week has been about storytelling, so I figured I would start off by story. And, I was on the Hill back in 2010 with Mr. Former Congressman in this town, and then we did create a congressional social work caucus. And as we were trying to build the caucus, and members of the caucus invited, congresspeople who aren't social workers, but who, were in line with our values and principles. We were trying to look for because we wanted to be bipartisan. That's word. And one of my friends said, "Well, I don't think this congressman from South Carolina, and I think I can get him the Republican. I think I can get him to join the caucus." His name is Joe Wilson. Anybody familiar with that name, Joe Wilson? Well, Joe Wilson was the guy in the gallery President Obama gave his State of the Union address and yelled out, "You lie!" Do you remember that now? Okay, so I said, "What are you talking? I'm just going to talk." He told the president, he called President Obama. But anyway, I remember her, she was his African-American coordinator. It turned out to be a really nice guy. And kind of sociable, and we talked for a while. And I asked him about that, and he said, "Man, that was like bad." But like for a lot of us, we just thought this kind of done. It's outrageous and behavior. And he said, "Well, when I got home, my wife asked me, 'Are you crazy?' Have you lost your mind? Why are you, what prompted you to say these things to the president?" So, that shows that, there are consequences for some of the things that we say. So today, you're going to go and visit the congressional offices. You're going to meet with staffers, the members have deserted this place, and they're gone. But I was going to give you 110 tips that I did for people who are going to correctional offices, but because we are running a little behind, I'm just going to. And that one is that when you go into these offices, just remember these people work for you. They're not going to do any favor by listening to you and listen, and listen to advocate for various issues. Sometimes things get twisted up here, there's people here feel that this place is the best. What you say? Very impressive. And but after you work there for a while, you realize it's just people doing their job. So these just people, some of them be pleasant, some of them maybe not so, but just go in, be calm, just say what you do. So I'm going to go into in depth. But before I leave, I want to ask Monty if she can come up one more time. And as Monty is coming up, I want to acknowledge some people. Chairman of the board for Chris, Justin Hunt. Karen Gouveia. Center for Innovation and Social Work and Health at Boston University. And she came down to so we are really grateful for all the work that Bonnie has done in terms of putting this together. She's been at it for quite a while. She's been at it for quite a while. And so yesterday, we gave, Wednesday, we gave Christmas awards. And I had one made especially for my money, but I didn't tell them. It's she kept telling me I'm gonna be there, but I think I'm working to get to the award ceremony. So this morning, I want to present Amani. That's an award. I feel
Thank you so much. This was quite a surprise. So thank you so much. I'm just so honored to put this together. You all did it so far. We're getting more to the meat of our day today. Since you all are going to be meeting with us soon, I do want you all just a little breakdown of we're going to bring up Jasmine to do our advocacy training. And then after that, we're going to be moving out of this room. All of the meetings are going to take place in the break room. So we're going to move over to that way. And then the leadership team will be camped out in the Longworth cafeteria if you all have any questions or comments. But without further ado, I'm going to bring up Jasmine, who's an innocent student at Columbia School of Social Work, currently concentrating in leadership management and entrepreneurship. Professional journey is rooted in a passion for driving positive change through social work and advocacy. With a proven track record of capacity building, mobilizing communities, and spearheading impactful initiatives, Jasmine is committed to making a difference. Jasmine is a 2024 Chris Fellow and ASW NYC Cares Member Ambassador, showcasing her commitment to community welfare and engagement. Jasmine is also the president of Social Work Group podcast at Columbia, exemplifying her passion for social change and civic engagement. With a bold vision for the future, Jasmine aspires to serve the community on a broader scale as organizer, mobilizer, and congresswoman. Please join me in welcoming the trailblazer and making Jasmine here.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be here with you today. And instead of doing a whole bunch of talking, we're actually going to get a little bit interactive because I think that the best way to learn is to just do the thing. But I think that stay on my committee. I do have a couple of points we'll talk about before we do some practice. Can you really see the screen? Okay, perfect. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of today, get to know each other a little bit. And since we are in the seat of our democracy today, I wanted to let anyone who is willing to share what is their version of the American dream. Right? We all have a different idea of what that means and what that means to us. So I would love to hear from you all about what is the American dream here in our country. Yeah, it's very interesting. For me, oh, thank you. But to be heard and to be seen and to feel like my to feel like my opinion matters and that it's in there.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nick Ward Gilder. I'm from Howard University and Master of Social Work student. The American Dream to me, my brother's there and on their services. So the American Dream to me is for everyone to have equal access to everything. for them to be able to understand their rights, to know their rights, and to have access to that level of communication. And that's it.
Anyone else want to share?
Hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Frank. My version of the would be the same to the systems that create marginalized community and like here said, we have some quality and pain and stuff. So, honest action will be think of what we think of American dream.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Knott. I am from the University of Michigan. I'm a study candidate. My American dream is to simply enforce prison reforms, policy within that, and also just providing awareness around education that they're trying to ban in our schools. So that's my American dream.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carmen Ross. I'm a first year Advocacy candidate at Hamilton University. And my American dream is to see Black communities go from striving to thriving.
Do we have any friends on the side of the room that want to talk about their dreams?
Hi, my name is Gulam Rahman. I work for School of Leadership here in Virginia. Is building a diverse society, regardless of race, color, and everything. We are all united from all corners of the world. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here with all of you. Tammy Gouvet from the Center for Innovation in Social Work and Health, social worker from the State of Michigan. But my version of the American dream is that we have policymakers that are actually putting people, their well-being, their health, and their dignity at the center when we're making decisions. I believe that every single policy that gets passed, whether it's at the local level or the federal level, impacts our health and well-being, and it ought to also include our dignity and our worth so that we can strive for the many and achieve many of the things that have already been highlighted.
Last call. So thank you all so much for sharing. I think those are amazing dreams and something we can absolutely make happen. We do it today through our collective organizing and through the power of our field social work. Absolutely. So thank you for sharing. So I just want to give a quick broad review of some of the ways that you can talk to your representatives, some of the tips and tricks for making yourself effective. And as we go through those very quickly, we'll break out into groups and actually do the work. So whenever you're talking to your reps, you want to be prompt and you want to engage. A lot of our representatives are called into meetings or votes very quickly without any kind of warning necessarily. So we want to have time to prepare if they're ready, but also know that if they get called away, it's not something that's entirely within their control. And so they ask for patience in that. You should know who is going to start the conversation. So when we break out into our small groups today, we'll identify who will be the first speaker in the room so we can get introductions started. We're going to keep it short and focused as well. So we have a very brief meeting time as well as one to micro. So that's what we're going to practice today. So what we're going to say quickly and the importance that is. So part of, talking to people and trying to create coalitions is telling them why and how it's important, not just to you, but to them. So being able to connect this to your personal story in a way can be very helpful. But it's also, of course, something you should do if you feel comfortable. And it's always an option. If you don't have a personal story for yourself, that you may see something or have friends or see things in your community that you can also share the actual experiences that are impacted by the bill that you are advocating for. You can also, if you're meeting with a representative that represents you, you want to make sure you're telling your constituent and why you might not actually be the today who is serving your district, and so that's okay. You can also just talk about how you might care about it, if you love their platform, or you can have one thing I will say is to make sure that you don't mention campaign funds inside of it, right? So it's we don't want them to think that we're trying to necessarily buy them. That can be how it feels when you're inside of a meeting. So don't bring up the campaign contributions, but you can talk about volunteerism that you've done or conversations that you've had, but try to get money out of these conversations. So when you're trying to convey your message, stick to your talking points. You'll have a chance today to kind of come up with what you want to say. And so try to say with that what you decided is important to get into your representative. Like I said before, you want to get personal and of this bill we're talking about today, the Renewable Act, or whatever act you might be talking about with your representative today. And it's totally okay to say that. So you may get a question from a representative or from a representative saying, okay, well, what does this look like? How will we actually implement this? How will this be helpful? If you don't know the answer, it is okay to say that and to stick with that because you would rather tell them that you don't know them to give this information in these circumstances. And then sometimes it's helpful to say that today might not be that case depending on what you're about, but it's always helpful to have the to say, I would love to know if you're going to sponsor this bill or support this initiative by this time, or maybe ask when will you have a response to this aspect today. And so the process when you're actually inside of the room is going to start out with introducing yourself. The first person will go and you're going to introduce yourself. And then you start building familiarity. Why am I here talking to you today? Because I'm a constituent of yours, is it because I really care about this and support your campaigns? Build familiarity, make a relationship, which is what we were best at, right? Then you're going to tell them what bill you're here to talk about and why it matters to this support, why you care about this bill as well. And then you're going to go into a Q&A. They might ask you questions about yourself, they might ask you questions about the bill and the support program. So you'll do that. And then you're going to say thank you, shake your hands, and we actually have these leave behind, so everyone will get leave some information about the actor here to support today with our signatures on the back so who they start with. So you'll say thank you, and that will be the end of your meeting. Does that make sense? Now we're going to the breakout session. So before we do that, are there any questions for me? So each of you, when you came in, should have received a sheet that tells you which congressperson you're going to be meeting with today. I'd like everyone to join into the groups with their shared. Yeah, we're going to do it. You guys can either find the
Hello. We Representative Scott at 12 o'clock. Meet in the are. And also we have Representative Kelly at 12:30, you'll also want to meet where Aaliyah and Hillary are as well. Okay. And then for people who are at 1 o'clock for any of the meetings, I would say meet on this side, and anyone who's after 1 o'clock, meet on this side, and then it'll make it easier for you to split up based on which representative visiting. Something else I would like to add is that if you have a meeting that's later in the day, we will not be in this room after 12 o'clock. If you would like to go to a meeting earlier in the day, please just come see me. I can give you the information.